The first story starts out in the flowing deserts of Guran, about a day's journey from the capital city of Enendar. Here we meet Torin, a foreign prince coming from the northern lands of Arasi, being sent there for a diplomatic marriage by his mother, the Fear of Arasi, their ruling body. We come down to a camp in the night, where a young Torn, age of 19, is waiting with his royal guard, Thrawn. They are nestled up to a campfire to ward off the cold of the desert night. Torn looks to be sulking as Thrawn makes his way up to him. Young master, tell me, what is wrong? Torn looks up at the man, tired eyes. We've been traveling for months to get here. And now that we're almost here, I feel terrified. I'm a man of Arossi. We don't have kings. We don't have lords of the court. When I was in court, I had a small amount of power, and that's simply because my mother was Fear. If I wasn't, I would have just been another slave boy. I essentially was. The best I could do was talk to the ladies of the court. That was it. And now I'm being sold off to become the king of another country? I don't know what mother is thinking, Thrawn. The older man, bald-headed, long beard, looked down at him. Well, my prince, it is... The Fear knows what she is doing. I'm sure she believes you are strong and capable of doing this. If you put your mind to it, I know you can do it. We shift placements and times as the night passes on and Torn and Thrawn sleep along with their caravan. In the morning, they make the rest of their journey to Enendar on their pack beasts known as Grunthers. Grunthers are large, ox-like creatures with short hair and large humps like a camel, and they eat large batches of food and water before going on large journeys and stuff, and so they don't need to be fed for a long time. So they're very useful to have in the desert. They continued to make their way towards Zenindar, and finally they could see it on the horizon. Torn was shocked. It looks so different from home. All the colors. Reds, purples, blues. The outer wall, the water, the sand. It all glows like no tomorrow. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it, Thrawn. Thrawn looked down at him. Well, I've been here once before. When I was here, it was still picking itself up after the revolution. But it is making its way well. And that is why your mother wants to make political ties with it. Of course, Thrawn. After a while, they made their way to the gates and were hailed by two guards. Excuse me, sir. I am wondering why you are here. What is your purpose? Torn looked towards Thrawn to do the talking, but Thrawn shook his head. You are the leader of this caravan, sir. You need to do it. Torn nodded. I am Prince Torn Kells of Arasi. I am part of the delegation to Garan. Ah, of course, sir. I will open the gate for you. The guard called up to the ones above to open the gate, and they opened the gate and made their way inside the city. Once again, Torn was shocked by all the colors. The outer city was there were three separate segments of the city: the outer city, the inner city, and then the keep. The outer city was filled with lots of oranges and blues to really get the feel of the tropical nature of this huge, massive oasis that Enendar is sat on top of. The inner city was filled with much more purples and golds to show the elegance of those who live in the merchant district and their better standing. And then the center, the keep, is filled with lush greens and blues and light blues and stuff and those kinds of colors to indicate life and prosperity. As they made their way through the city, they encountered many people and were impressed by all the different things that they had to sell. In fact, when passing through, they came in contact with some merchants. One of them called out, "Excuse me, sir, would you like to buy a one-of-a-kind Dunteokati? It is a very specialty item." Thorin looked over. What is that? Ah, well, you see, it is a device that you can use to clean sand. It uses a baby sandworm to clean off the sand on your clothes. It is very, very safe, and so there's no reason to worry about it. Torn looked down at his clothes. He was quite sandy. Um, I'll buy one. Ah, wonderful choice, my lord, wonderful choice. I will get that for you right away. The merchant went and grabbed one of the Dunto Gatis and brought it out to Torin. Here you go, my lord. Torin took it and started just tracing it along his clothes, and as advertised, it completely cleaned off any sand that it came across. Although it was a little uncomfortable because it felt like little nipping bites of small creatures, as they were baby sandworms that were eating off the sand. They continued forward, finally making their way into the inner city. And as they went to the gates of the inner city, they were met by a fjord, a small earth elemental, uh, crystalline beards and hair and stone skin. This one was shaped like sandstone and had onyx for its crystal beard and hair. As Torn made his way up, he addressed the man. "Excuse me, sir, but who are you?" The Fjorm spoke back. My name is Olda. I am here in service to the king to bring you to him. Ah, thank you. You can leave your beasts here. We will walk. Of course. They dismounted from their grunters and made their way with Alder to the keep. Along the way, Alder struck up a conversation. So, my lord, have you ever been to Garon before? No, this is my first time. Speaking of which, I've not seen any other Fjorm here. I am not surprised. There are not many Fjorm in Garon. You could probably count the number of us on one hand. Oh, I didn't know they were that rare here. Yes, the desert does not birth many of my people. As they continued on, they finally made their way to the palace. We will continue on to the palace, and I will lead you straight to the throne room. Of course. As they made their way into the palace, they made their way through the grand hallways. filled with filled with the lush green carpets, and the ceilings painted with a sky blue, the walls painted with the gold as of the sands, all indicative of life and nature and prosperity. Finally, they made their way to a large chamber, the throne room. The grand doors, 20 feet tall and 10 feet wide, were pushed open, and inside, sitting on a throne, large, 15 feet in height, was the king of Garon, half ogre, Danas Bar Garon. Now we find ourselves looking upon a familiar face. 8 years ago, Rhea had almost died. She did not know if that flaming creature, that fiend, was still following her, but at the moment, that didn't matter. What did matter was what happened the night before. The operation had gone wrong. The Pocos were on them. They had to run. She lost Enta, and Kuma was captured. She made her way quietly through the outer city, alleyway by alleyway. Finally, catching up to her was Enta. Where were you, Enta? We were supposed to meet at the designated place. Enta looked at her. I am sorry, Rhea. I could not shake the Pocos, so I had to keep running. Rhea looked at him and shook her head. It does not matter. They got Kuma. Enta looked down, a guilty look in his eyes. I am sorry. Afterwards, they made their way back to their headquarters. After reuniting, they made their way to the headquarters. When they made it there, a, a when they made it there, a large individual with a scruffy beard made his way towards them. You are in big trouble this time, Rhea. The boss wants to see you. Rhea sighed and made her way up the stairs, and as she was going up the stairs, it was so quiet. She looked at Enta. Enta, what is wrong? Why is it so quiet? It is never quiet. She realized too late. It was a trap. Enta looked up at her. I am sorry, Rhea, but business is business. Suddenly, out of the corners, men started jumping out and they grabbed her. She she fought as best she could, but to no avail. She could not match their strength. The leader of the Collocateer Thieves Guild made his way out of a room. About time I made use of you. Is this the girl you wanted? Stepping out of the shadows was a dark-skinned man with long black hair with a red bolt going down the side. His emerald green eyes shone brightly, like, like electricity. She looked at him. Who are you? He answered. I am Cole. You will follow. Before they left, Rhea looked at Enta. You are my friend. I trusted you. Enta looked at her. I am sorry, but you should know there are no friends in Galakatir. Rhea left with Cole, as she had no choice. As they made their way out, she looked at him. He was imposing. Where are you taking me? He looked down at her. It does not matter. You will follow. They made their way through the alleys, eventually coming to what looked to be a small storage building. They made their way in, and he looked down at her. You will stay here. Rhea looked at him. What if I try to run? Cole looked down at her. Then it will find you. Rhea froze. Her eyes widened, and she stumbled back in fear. It can't be. I lost it. I had to have. It couldn't find me. His eyes dug into her. It is in the city. I will do my best to keep it from finding you. Rhea looked at him. It's here. Why does it want me? Cole looked down at her. Your power. You are an elementalist of rare power. Rhea looked at him. I see. She looked up at him. Can I trust you? Cole chuckled a little. You trusted your friend, and he sold you to me. Rhea thought that was true. She couldn't trust anyone. She had to not trust anyone. Who are you? I am a man hunting a monster. I see. You mustn't trust anyone. It can take control of their bodies in order to get to you. She remembered back then the day her life ended. The day Gray's, that Captain Gray, his body going up in flames, while she ran like a coward. I will not run this time. Then you will die. So be it. You have fire, girl. I will teach you how to use it. Once again, we find ourselves in the streets of Anandar. This time, however, we find ourselves in the middle city, at one of the many barracks of the Pocos. Inside this barracks, there is a Poco captain currently doing paperwork. When rushing into his office comes a fellow Poco. She shouts to him, Grimdar, we have found it. We have found Golakatir. Grimdar stood stunned. Truly. Fantastic. We will take it. The Poco looked up at him. Are you sure? But shouldn't we get the Lord Poco's approval? Grimdar looked down for a second. It will take too much time. If someone is ratted out, they're bound to find out. Let's go! Mobilize the forces. At this point, many of the Pocos gathered together and they made their way into the streets, on their way to Kalakatir. Grimdar made sure he had plenty of water in his pouches. Never know when your element could be useful. Uh, they traveled for a good 30 minutes, and finally, when they made it there, they stealthily approached. When they got close, they stopped. Grimdar addressed the men. Now, remember, these are not just common thieves. These are rogues of Golakatir. Many of them are retired soldiers and such. They are skilled. Now, we will converge on them from all sides. You men go around that way. You men go around that side. And as they dispersed and encircled Golakatir, they slowly made their way in, and finally, Grimdar Hash, Ernuli Babakar Takar, walked right up to the front door, where there was a large, scruffy bearded man. Oi, hey, what are you doing here? Who are you? Why are you here? Leave! Leave now! The rogue reached for his blade, but Grimdar was ready for it. He held up his hand, opened up his water skin, took a nice long drink, closed it, set it down. All right, now we may begin. Suddenly, water launched from Grimdar and smashed the rogue up against the wall. Never bring a sword to the Elementalist fight. Grimdar then used the rest of his water to burst the door open. It was chaos. Rogues started jumping from their seats, launching themselves at him, but coming from behind him was dozens of Pocos. I am here to let you know. You are all under arrest. After that, they started rounding up the Pocos. A few men were injured, but no one was killed. Until the leader of the Collocateer launched from the second story with vampiric speed, breathing in something in a bottle. He landed. Well, well, well. It would seem your master has saw fit to finally get rid of me. But I won't go down that easily. Grimdar was confused as to what he was saying, but he was in a battle stance, and he couldn't stop now. He took 2 swigs of water. He grabbed a chunk of rock, bit into it. He then expelled the water from his body, holding it in the air. The leader of Collocateer looked at him. How fancy, how quaint. But I am not the same as you. You are a elementalist of low quality. I am a greater elementalist. Bursting forth from him was powerful bolts of lightning. He then shot them at Grimdar. Grimdar put up a wall of earth, but it exploded. Your paltry earth cannot hold up to my lightning. I have the power of storms. This was going to be a difficult fight. Many of the other Pocos started to move forward, but Grimdar stopped them. No, this is not a fight you can win. Take the other rogues and get out of here. I will deal with him myself. The leader of Collocateer laughed. Oh, quaint, quaint, quaint. You'll deal with me yourself. I'd like to. Suddenly, Grimdar launched himself forward, throwing a spear of water at him. The rogue was so surprised, he barely moved to the side, but he was grazed and bleeding. What? He looked up, but already Grimdar had launched a rock at him. He shot lightning at it. It burst, and as it burst from behind it, Grimdar threw three more stones. One of them struck him. One of them struck the rogue, but lightning burst forth and blew up and destroyed the other ones. Wasn't done talking. Exactly. Suddenly, Grimdar pulled out a scimitar, moving from side to side, launching water on both sides. The rogue had to dodge, and suddenly the sword launched forward. The sword launched forward. The rogue put all of his electrical force into the blade, and Grimdar launched the blade into the ground, driving all of that electrical energy into the ground, into the earth. Now, what was that you were saying about being a greater elementalist? The leader of Collocateer stood shocked. I'm sure we can work something out. Maybe, if you tell me everything you know. They made their way to one of the side rooms. Wimdar sat the rogue leader down. Tell me, what was that you were saying earlier? You mean you don't know? How fun. Your leader, Lord Poco. I work for him. No, no, that is not possible. You cannot work for him. He's a good man. He raised me, he taught me everything I know. It cannot be. I am afraid. He is. And he is going to be very upset. He finds out you took me down. No. No. What did he use you for? Slave trade. He had a very specific taste. Young. Over the years, it's gotten older. Young. Dark hair. Dark skin. And blue eyes. Very specific. And I'm almost certain I found that girl recently. But I sold her to someone else. After all, if he finds what he's looking for, he'd stop paying me. That cannot be right. No. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. What? Ah, doesn't matter. I will take you to the barracks, where you will await trial. You both know I won't get a trial, but very well. I had a good run of things. Gwimdar took the rogue leader and the rest of the rogues to the Poco's barracks in the middle city. After registering them all in, he went directly to the Lord Poco. Knocking on his office door, he heard his voice. Come in. Grimdar entered. Lord Poco, sir. The Lord Poco looked up. Ah, Gwym! My son, it is good to see you. Gwym looked at him. I have done what we have been trying to do for a long time. And what is that? I have destroyed Golakatir. It is gone. We are free from it. Gray, the Lord Poco, looked up and twitched slightly. Good work. I'm impressed. It's finally gone. Gwimdar Hash, or newly Babakar Takar, bowed his head to the Lord Poco and left. That vampire, the rogue leader, was correct. The Lord Poco, Gray, his adopted father, was dirty. And that was The Elementalists, Episode 1. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great day.